My name is Will.
And I'm Karen.
And unlike Mulder and Scully,
we both want to believe.
So we've embarked on a journey of discovery.
We've talked to people deeply entrenched in the spiritual and metaphysical world.
We've thrown ourselves into weird and wonderful experiences. I even joined a coven of witches.
And wait, you joined a coven?
Yep, all in the interest of finding something.
Anything.
That will prove that there's something beyond this physical,
three-dimensional world we all live in.
This is the Skeptic Metaphysicians.
Hey there, I'm Will.
And I'm Karen.
And thank you for joining us again on this episode of Skeptic Metaphysicians. Today, we are lucky to call Ryan Angelo our guest. He has consulted, Karen, I think he's probably one of the most sought after people we've had on the show.
Ooh.
Yeah, because he's consulted for billion-dollar companies.
Wow.
He's conducted multitudes of workshops and sat in VIP circles as an advisor. So basically, he's an advisor to VIPs. That's big cred.
Why is he talking to us?
Because we are VIPs, Karen. That's why.
Well, we call each other that, but nobody else does.
Well, maybe
it's not sticking. It's not sticking.
It's gonna happen, right? You fake it till you make it. Is what they said. Well, see, Ryan though, he had a spiritual awakening that ended up spanning a decades-long exploration to try to bridge the spiritual and the psychological, and he received inspiration from Archangel Michael and Lady Faith. And we're going to dive into Lady Faith a little bit because the only Lady Faith that I know is a music artist. I don't know that he's talking about her, but and he is on a search to help human beings master consciousness. So that is right up our alleys. I'm excited to welcome Ryan Angelo to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it. Yeah. Good to finally connect.
Yes. Very good. Yeah. I gotta say, I'm a little starstruck, right? Because you have been in the presence of massive people. And to Karen's point, why are you talking to us, right?
Oh, there are no massive people. So you have a lot of individuals out there who have this appearance of wealth and these really polished personas, but they're miserable, a lot of them. Years ago, I had a client who looked like he was the greatest guy ever, had a fleet of cars, all these women, and not that's things we should go for, but he was going for it because that's what a lot of people think is what they're supposed to have. When they hired me because he was suicidal. And the sadness in that was he was disconnected from his true self. He was disconnected from the soul. He was living in his lower ego. He was caught up in all this madness that all of us are trying to get disconnected from. Both of you work in TV, so you know as well as I, there's a lot of personas. There's a lot of superficiality there. There are a lot of, even in our arena, there's a lot of spiritual egos too, where someone wants to show up and be like, look at me, I'm the queen of whatever. And they're wearing their little cute crystal necklace and they're shining whatever. We live in a world right now where the lies are breaking down, right? That's what's going on. And we're assisting and helping facilitate the breakdown of lies because lies have zero benefit to anybody. But lies require life force to sustain themselves. And so those of us who work with this sort of redeemer archetype, alliance, I call it the unseen alliance. It's the old axiom of resurrection and life. Death and decay doesn't fit into that equation, right? And so a lot of these personas, a lot of these different things like fake it till you make it and all this nonsense is breaking down because it never really was. It was just a well-crafted lie. And those who crafted it are so miserable, it's astonishing to me that it can even exist. And that's part of what's going on too, is there are those who are in the call it the anti-light side of the force who want to jump ship. Like they're just done. That was one of the biggest things that happened on the mountain as I came into contact with Archangel Michael's quality and his energy. I was a fan of David R. Hawkins and also all this together as I go. And he talked about power versus force. And he talked about at a certain level is pride consciousness. And then just above that's courage. And that's like the ultimate, that's what the battleground spiritually is. Because pride consciousness belongs to the Luciferian consciousness, belongs to narcissism or Tico, Heyoka, we have all these ways of describing it, but just an inch above it's courage. The idea of I can do this. I don't have to defeat you to be happy. I don't have to make you small to be happy. I don't have to berate you to be happy. But it lies to us and tries to tell us that we need it as a teacher. We don't need anything from that. We're its teacher. It doesn't show us where we're anything of benefit. You don't need somebody to hurt you or rape you or punish you and to know you don't want that. It's so diluted that it projects its stuff on other people. And this is one of the essences of the persona, right? If we have too strong a persona, we divorce ourselves from the shadow. This is even the axiom of the Lucifer and Satan component. Like the extreme pride created this very destructive force. And it's in shadow masculine and shadow feminine. And so on the mountain, I came into contact with Archangel Michael, and David R. Hawkins, like I said, in Power versus Force, had peace resonating about, I think, 900 or so. In his other book, he talked about how archangels resonate at 50,000. So the highest possible emotional frequency we can handle is around 900. I came into contact with, I mean, obviously he probably dialed down his energy, otherwise he would have fried me. On this mountain with a friend of mine, good ally, good brother, really grounded kind of guy, who was blown away by the experience. But the premise was, I was being reminded of the agreement I had. I wasn't being asked to make an agreement any more than you guys are. And one of the biggest things I always remind people is, it's not that you have a purpose you're supposed to go off and find. You don't have it's not an object. You are the purpose, is the embodiment of this innate within you. And the more you do it, the more everything flows. You have innate skills. You just have to remember how to embrace them. And so this whole thing led to everything in my life falling apart. All my millionaire friends were concerned because now I was aware that there was anti-light component that we need to transcend, but they all are in the persona mindset, right? How many sales you got on stage today? How many of this? How many of that? Versus how many people have you helped? What kind of value have you added to the world? Look at my new wristwatch. Like, I don't care how many $50,000 wristwatches you have, dude. Like, how have you added value? And it took me down this whole process where all that I thought was important got stripped away. Like my sports got torn in half, my condo lost. I had to live in some complex situations to, one, show me how anti-light's a good liar because it's so good at the persona, but it has no power, none. Great at lying, not useful at anything else. And how light is infinitely more powerful. When I say light, I'm talking about love, light, and life, right? Not just love and light, but love, light, and life, like the divine order component, like the divine timing essence of everything. And so going back to the start of this, a lot of talking, and I'll be quiet and listen here in a second, is you ask, what's the difference between these people who are these billion-dollar corporations and these millionaires and all this stuff and people? Nothing. Honestly, some people have trauma that they live out so extremely to prove they're lovable that they perpetually trying to fill this void that they created with money and sports cars and this, that, and the other. And they look all shiny, but they hate themselves fully and utterly and absolutely. And what's happening is I think there's a big return to authenticity that we're all experiencing, we're helping facilitate. And it's, for instance, an example I can offer is you both are fundamentally physically exhausted. You said, but yet here you are, right? You had this whole thing, you had all these different shows, you hopped on, we chatted for a few minutes, and you're on this. Because I even offered to reschedule, and you're like, no, we're here, let's be present. And even though there's a fatigue present in the physical, who you are is continuing to hold this space.
Yeah, no, we definitely, we believe in divine timing. We believe in everything happens for a reason. And even though we are quite tired from a long day, we honestly look forward to this. When we hold space for this type of thing, when we sit behind these microphones, it's energizing in and of itself because we get to speak with people who are on the same path, in plural, that we are in. And we get to learn from people that are perhaps further along than we are. And it's energizing in a very broad sense.
And I would also say beyond energizing, it's also very calming. Because we're hearing these messages, we're feeling the energy and the vibrations. And it just, at least for me, it just puts me in a place I like to be in that place. So it's healing. It's wonderful.
Definitely. And please don't worry about talking because we actually would much rather we just shut up and listen to someone who knows what they're saying much more than we would need to ask questions. But before we go too far down the road, you mentioned the mountain, and I did a little bit of research on you. I don't know that our audience may know you as well as I do now. So perhaps we should go back and talk about what mountain, what happened, and how did you have a spiritual awakening that changed everything for you?
So I was a executive consultant. I was working in the background to help leaders lead, basically. That was kind of my function. Long story short, to condense it, I was guiding the leaders through a visualization process. One of the leaders who's an old soul ally of mine, soul brother, one of my best friends even now, had this strong intuition to have me come up to British Columbia for 11-11-11. Now, knowing him now, the fact that he asked this is mind-blowing. Talk about purpose happening. It's the opposite of his personality. Even to this day, he can't believe it. He invited me to come up. So here we are. I'm hanging out with his family. I had gone for my ego because I thought this is a good opportunity to bridge more business purpose and all this kind of stuff. Higher self had a different plan. So we go through this process and this journey where we find ourselves up on a mountaintop, and it's something biblical or extreme, like winds shifting, responding, something extreme shamanic experience. And the premise was that part of my function is I've come here to assist incarnated angels. There's a lot of allies who are loyal to the creator who've come here to assist humanity in this whole process. And you hear a lot of them, but my function is to help angels, to help the incarnated angels. And I work with light workers as well. But the thing about we who are of the angelic lineage, we're masters of oneness. We just get that. Right? So our innate empathic capabilities are fantastic. We know how to help everybody. It's who we are, it's who we've been, even before we decided to come into this form. Because when the fall in consciousness did happen, and there's lots of different perspectives around that, but really it came down to pride. It's not that we need that to learn. It's that the only thing it has to teach us is it has nothing to teach. Like once you understand that narcissism is not helpful, it's lost all of its benefits. I mean, that's the whole lesson it has to teach. Like a narcissist is going to betray you. Like, can they transform? Sure, but you can stay in that with them for eternity. And for those who have been in toxic relationships, we know that. So a lot of angels, a lot of incarnated angels, a lot of light workers, we've had very toxic things in our lives, right? Whether it's parents, whether it's relationships, whether it's whatever the case may be, because bright light attracts bugs. God bless them. We love everybody in Kumbaya and all that, nice stuff. At the same time, enough is freaking enough. Like, I don't know about you. I'm sick and tired of having people trying to siphon life force from me. And some do it consciously. There's dark, art practitioners that I don't enjoy. And I'll just say this really fast. You're listening to this, and if you're dealing with this, just remember the old axiom, what's mine is mine, what's theirs is theirs. That's one of the most effective ways to disentangle from that and pull your energy back to you, because a lot of times what they'll try and do is psychically get you to feel frustrated back or to convince you you did something wrong. The whole premise of the vampire bite or the Antichrist consciousness is to get you to doubt yourself a little bit. Doubt is not natural. It has zero purpose whatsoever. It never has, never will. But those who play in that, they like try to get you to doubt yourself a little bit, because if you don't, you're in Christ consciousness. They can't reach it. It's like there literally is a line that was drawn. A lot of people who are coming to the spiritual, a lot of times we expect everything to be perfect, right? And then sometimes like a feedback loop or a shutdown on it. The microphone wasn't perfect. Oh my gosh, the universe is imploding. It's like, no, dude, you're on planet Earth. Like, chill out. It's a microphone. Don't worry about it. This is part of what I've seen a lot of incarnated angels or a lot of light workers is we've taken on too much for too many people. Like, truly, we're at the point of enough is enough. And the idea is we know oneness. Our job is to be a higher selfish now. It's about pulling energy back. It's not about hurting or denying anybody anything, but if someone keeps falling in the same hole and calls to you, jump in with me, help me, at a certain point, you're the one responsible for hopping back in the hole. I mean, tie a rope to the tree and throw the rope in so that they can do that. You put tools on the table, like, hey, here's a book. But if they keep trying to get you involved in their delusional madness, face a part of you who feels like you have to rescue for eternity. Because that's the trap. That's when enough is enough. I mean, honestly, because a lot of us who have this healing nature, some of us have gotten addicted to the drama a little bit, right? We know how to get in the trenches. We know how to go on the rescue missions. We get all this stuff. We've done it for so freaking long at this point that it's natural. Yeah. But it also is not fun whatsoever. It sucks. I mean, it's pointless. And so the biggest thing I see with all the clients I work with is actually facing the fact that you're loved too. It's funny how a lot of us are so good about loving everybody, and we took on, held space for our parents, held space for so-and-so, this, that, and the other. The challenging thing about being that loving is facing that you're loved even more is a whole different ballgame, because it shifts your reality. And if you look at the themes you've had in your different dialogues, there's this concept or this continuous theme of we have so many semantics. Semantics are irrelevant. This new phase of existence, right? This new possibility, these new timelines. And the past can't exactly exist in the future. You can retain the wisdom, but if you're tied to the past and you keep repeating the cycle of, I got to rescue, you're not hearing the cycle of, I'm allowed to be free, I'm allowed to be free, I'm allowed to be free. And that is the big thing we are working on, in my very humbled opinion.
Well, it's funny because sometimes we have guests who come here specifically for me. Other times we have guests who come here specifically for Karen. And I believe that you are firmly in that camp for lots of different reasons. One of which, Karen, I hope you heard what he said about doubt for when we weren't that.
Sneaky little son of a gun, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
But so worry is like the herald of doubt, right? Worry is going to use your cleverness and your intelligence. Like, hey, maybe you shouldn't have said that. Maybe you should have this, right? And then it's like this little creepy thing with his little fishing hook, right? Instead of it being in the boat, it's under the water. It's like an angler fish, like the shiny little thing. And if you give into it, then it pulls you into doubt. And it's like, I've done something wrong. But when you've done that, you've slipped back into pride. And now it's like all this stuff's like, get on, man. It's like all these thoughts coming in, all these sharks or whatever the case may be. But the interesting thing too is our buoyancy is getting stronger too. Like I'm sure if you do hit the doubt bubble, because there's always reasonable doubt, right? It's always some sort of logical thing, or it's in a perfectly emotional sniper shot. But there's this natural resilience. It's there. You can't deny it. Like more and more, you're bouncing back faster, and less is able to get you off path. And even when you're fatigued, when you're vulnerable, there's still this awareness has gotten stronger. This is your Christ armor, your Christ consciousness, anointed consciousness, or whatever word you feel best with. I call it the unseen ally. It's just there. So apologies. You said number 2?
Oh, no, there's many, many numbers. But number 2 is the fact that we have gotten confirmation from many, many people that Karen is one of those reincarnated angels or incarnated angels on this planet. And she is, I mean, how many times, Karen, have we talked about the fact that, I mean, you've got the things you've gone through as a savior, right? The men that you've dated that really that throws so much dirty laundry out in the open. But everything you're saying makes perfect sense in a lot of ways. As you're speaking, I'm thinking back on conversations I've had with Karen. It just makes perfect sense that you are here for her today. So I am grateful for that.
Well, I'd say I'm here for both of you guys. I'm going to tease you and see, divine timing in the structure is perfect. It doesn't always do an either or thing. I know what you're saying, and I agree with what you're saying too. But you're helping hold space for an angelic being, right? And so which means you have either a direct lineage to that, which you may not be aware of, maybe you are, or you're connected or part of the team.
Yeah, I know of no lineage. I do believe that Karen and I have incarnated together quite a bit for me to help her time after time. So I'm grateful. I am very, very grateful for it. But
I want to tease you and say that she's helping you too.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt about it. I'm learning a tremendous amount. In fact, I tell her 1,000 times a day, like, oh my God, I don't deserve you, but thank you for being here, because I'm learning so much from her. Without her, I would not be here. Trust me, I would not be here.
But that's the whole premise of what I'm saying is you guys do deserve each other. For all the nonsense you've had to tolerate, think about what it took to get to this relationship.
Yeah.
And we were joking before we hopped on the call. It's like this type of a love is a real thing. You're an example that is real. People are looking for it like, it doesn't exist. Yes, it does. You're evidence of that. It's part of the purpose you embody. Well, within that, I'm sure you've noticed that this type of love, like you were saying at the beginning of the call or before we started recording, shadows got nowhere to hide. Like it's like extremely purifying and wonderful and amazing, but oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And it's a whole different type of frequency. You're learning how to dance in that frequency.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Ryan. I think you're going to be one of our favorite guests. We're going to have you back like 1,800 times, because like literally we're halfway through the show. We haven't even touched on anything I have on my not a single question that I wanted to ask you. But we got to take a break real quick. But when we do, I know that you talk about the 7 soul paths, and I want to dive a little bit into that to find out exactly what those paths are and why they're so important to figure out in order for us to come to grips with what we're supposed to be doing here. We'll get into that and a lot more when we come back right after these messages. Welcome back to the Skeptic Metaphysicians. We are talking to Ryan Angelo, who is frankly blowing our minds. We don't Ryan, you should just have your own show and just sit there and talk to people, because I think people would sit there. And in fact, you have. I've seen pictures of you on stage talking to thousands of people. So this must be very comfortable for you. But right before the break, we talked about the 7 soul paths and why there's something that you kind of have to wrap your head around in order to really, truly embrace your reason for being here. So can you touch on those soul paths for us? Let us know what they're about. What are they? And then we'll go from there.
Absolutely. So before I do that, let me explain. Part of the spiritual awakening process is overwhelming because your comfort zone is being stretched. And so when that happens, you experience this thing we call ego death, which sounds terrifying, right? It's like right out of the bat, like ego death, that sounds horrifying. And then there's this whole creepy shadow thing you're supposed to deal with and integrate. Like, what's that all about? And so the landscape is actually beautiful and wonderful, but what you're doing is you're disentangling yourself from BS. Like truly, you're disentangling yourself from utter and total nonsense. And the reason why it seems terrible is there's certain things that don't want to let go of your life force. They don't own your life force, but they're hungry and they're ridiculous. And even that sounds scary, right? So, well, we've all come into a room where we're in a positive mood, like, oh, everything's fantastic. And there's one person there, it's like the serious one. And it just sucks the joy out of the room. And it was like, I'm sorry for laughing. I didn't mean to offend you, did I? And it just gives you the look. And then wants to tell you about drama or something, and then, or blame you for something. There are factors that are not in alignment with a greater purpose. They just aren't. They're going to try and convince you they are because a liar needs someone to listen to a lie. The second you embrace, you don't have to listen to lies anymore. Truth starts presenting itself to you in the way you're able to handle. You're never given more you can handle. You hear all these experiences about, oh, this amazing thing happened, this extreme thing happens. It depends on how much you want to sign up for. Like you can sign up for the extreme ridiculousness. I don't advise it. I did. I got my ass kicked many times. Forgive my language. Like there's a couple of times I'm on the planet and still alive only because of divine grace. That's my personality. I got a Scorpio personality and I got an Aries moon. So I'm like, well, let's do it. Mm. And so
you're speaking to a Gemini. So I'll get you, brother. I'm right there with
you. but yeah, you get a double. Oh my goodness.
Yes, I do.
No, I get the double.
All right, sorry.
No, sorry. So even this though, part of the spiritual journey, there is some people try and show it to you in a way you have to become perfect. And like, I have my spiritual necklace of magical spiritualness and so on and so forth. Or you have somebody over there who's such a crazy person, God bless their heart, but they're like, I talk to 83rd dimensional beings from Quanda. It's like, dude,
you heard our show.
Yeah, well, so here's the thing though, be mindful of that too, because the astral plane is a really weird place, right? The 5th dimensional wall is woven perfectly. A lot of humans are not contacting higher than 5D beings. I mean, the 4th dimension it's almost like, you ever gone to a theme park? And you know how they have these long lines and you can't see around the corner?
Yeah.
Right? So imagine if you have a whole bunch of those blocks, but it starts back at the loop. You could seem like you're walking millions of miles and you don't get anywhere. And so in the astral plane, there's a lot of trapped essences that promise a whole bunch, but don't deliver anything. So they got nothing to deliver. And so many things I've just said, I was going to go simple and I went a lot. I just want to lay out the landscape because if you're listening to this show, you're probably not a complete newbie. I imagine. Not that we aren't all of us learning all the time, every day. The soul paths act as a compass to navigate all that stuff. There's lessons you don't have to learn. There's things you can avoid. You don't have to fall into a pit. Integrating and dealing with your shadow doesn't have to be traumatic. Sometimes it's intense. Sometimes you got a lot of trapped transformational energy you think is anger, and it's not that. You're just pissed off. You had to deal with that conditional love crap from your ex or your parents or whatever. And when you stop letting it eat you up from the inside and you release what you thought was anger, it's not that. It's just transformational energy that got trapped and was implosive, then explosive, created more problems. And you were trying to compartmentalize it because you're trying to make everybody else happy. When you realize there's a simpler way, that way starts to open up to you. That's the whole premise of 7 soul paths. And so the idea of the 7 soul paths is you are an embodiment of one of these essences. It's almost like the ultimate personality system, right? When you embrace this piece of you, everything in life flows because it's who you are. It's not who you have to be, right? That's the trap. In a lot of spiritual things, I've got to figure out who I am. You already know who you are. You have to forget all the crap you were told you are and you're not. You got to remember your true self. It's always there. You've come into contact with it all the time. This is how you're watching this type of a show. It's there. You have to face it and own it. So the elder path's all about that. The elder path, the blue ray, is basically owning in your true self, sacrificing the false. When I say sacrificing, it sounds scary. You're like, oh my God. Well, wouldn't you be willing you sacrifice the garbage every time you take it out. Like that's the whole premise of it, is to take out the trash, let it go. But it's scary taking the garbage out. Not really. I mean, the idea is that your true self is bigger than the personality you think you are. You're not even you're the awareness of all your thoughts and your feelings. But let's be honest, if you fall down below that line, one thought can have us for days or months. Mm-hmm. If you're really smart, you probably have had a thought hang with you for a long time because your smart's used against you. If you're a deep feeler, haven't you been hanging out and a feeling shows up like, hey, something's wrong. Unknown variable detected, and then you're like trying to figure out where's the feelings come.
Oh my God.
What do I got to clear? What's this going on? Who's this coming from? And sometimes it's not even relevant. Sometimes just let it go. And so the Blu-ray is about one, infinite protection. Absolutely. We're talking Archangel Michael level protection. For those who don't know Michael's an archetype who is akin to potentially the eldest son of the creator, if you want to call it that. Using simple metaphors here and simple vernacular. But it's a non-denominational essence, right? And so Michael and Faith oversee this. And so Faith, we mentioned her a moment ago. Faith is an archetype. Within the archangelic realm, there's the masculine and feminine qualities. And of course, they're omnipresent and they're interwoven. To simplify this, think of Michael as the champion who is constantly doing stuff, and Faith holds space for the champ, right? When I say hold space for it, he couldn't do anything without her, and she'd be bored without him. And it's the idea of divine feminine and divine masculine working together. With the Blu-ray, while it's very masculine and it's very divine father-esque, is about realizing divine order is real. And you've been convinced it isn't, but you haven't been convinced of anything. I take that back and obliterate that statement. There are people who want to convince you of certain things. Certain lies are real. Certain weirdness is normal. It isn't. You're not crazy. They are. They want you to think that their way of doing things is right. And so the fact that you can see through that stuff shows you have that line. That's the idea. The Blu-ray, the path of the elder is a direct line to the creator. With that, everything else is possible. And that's getting above the pride line. It's like, I have support, because you do have support. When you accept that, it shows up in ways you can't necessarily control. But when you stop feeling like you have to control everything, which good luck, because most of us are achievers, right? And it's not luck, it's practice, by the way. So if you're like, why haven't I got this lesson? It's because your achiever is not acknowledging how much you have achieved. Mm-hmm. When you allow yourself to appreciate just how much you've progressed, you find that there's been this perfect plan the entire time, and you're a part of it. Path of the Awakener has to do with wisdom, understanding, and discernment. So it's essentially sort of like the child, learning lessons. It's about embracing 3D life and accepting it's there, and letting your mind be washed of these erroneous beliefs. Like, we have to experience time. A lot of people are like, I'm going to bypass everything. I'm going to be a 12th dimensional so-and-so. And time exists for a reason. You can't bypass it. Like, it's built into the equation because time's your ally. A lot of us fight with time because we're achievers. Like, I should have accomplished 87 things, but you don't hear the should in there. And the should doesn't belong to your truth. The should is like stopping you from seeing you accomplished 87 things. I'm like, my gosh, chill, breathe. Why you enjoy your life for a little bit, please. And so unifier path's about essentially the Holy Spirit essence. It's about spiritual discernment. Let's be honest, there's some people who don't respect love. I very much have extreme harsh judgment with these personalities. I don't like narcissists. I don't like people who bully or mess with empathic people. I'm very much I don't like them. And I realize that's where I'm learning more love and more compassion. It doesn't mean that their conduct is acceptable. It absolutely is not whatsoever. But the idea of love in its purest form is so powerful, no one can contest it. And so if you can have a bigger love field where you can see a narcissist, but not try and rescue or change the narcissist, or if you can be in a bigger field of love, you become like a lighthouse that creates change just by being. You emanate that field. But love flushes up the shadow. So people walking the unifier path are these amazing artists, but a lot of people will try and fight with you because you're scaring them with how loving you are. If you're walking the path of purifier, you're in a place of discipline and joy. It's like the fulcrum or core of all the paths, the path of purifier. It's the idea of ascension, right? A lot of people talk about ascension. What is ascension? Every second is an ascension. Every second, every microsecond, you have so many thoughts possible. We could talk about the guy who cut me off in traffic, or we could talk about the majestic eagle that flew overhead today, right? Then we could take another tangent, like the majestic eagle meant this, majestic eagle meant that. Every second you have different possibilities. And so the idea of discipline is that there's always an opening where joy is, because joy is divine timing and synchronicity. And the thing about joy is that joy always contains love, but love doesn't always contain joy. And if you're in a real relationship, you know that more than most. That said, there's moments of joy where it's like, oh, wow. And then something magical happens because divine timing and synchronicity are always found in the frequency of joy. And a lot of times what happens too, with the discipline, what you're disciplining is allowing yourself to come back into humbleness. Not I'm less than somebody else, but the idea of relinquishing pride. Like I have to fight with someone, or they're fighting with me. I've got to explain them or fight them or solve them or help them or rescue all that, those traps. Like I can let that go. Once you get to the point of I can let that go and actually mean it. And remember the statement, what's mine is mine, what's theirs is theirs. And you focus on your own training, your own process, things work out in ways that'll blow your mind, like truly. With the last 3 paths, manifestor path. Manifestor is about truth and science and vision. It's where prosperity is, but it's also where harmony is and healing. The interesting thing about a lot of people want to be in the manifestor path because it sounds really cool and exciting, but it's truth. It's utter and absolute truth. Subjective truth is not truth. It's tainted truth, if truth can be tainted, or it's a partial truth. Getting a partial truth into a bigger truth is what lets everything unfold in beautiful, wonderful ways, because instead of looking through the keyhole, you expand and you get back to the vision of there is a bigger purpose. There's a lot of things working for you. And a lot of the beliefs that you thought you were supposed to believe to make mom and dad or your ex or whoever it is happy were nonsense, serve zero purpose, and you can pluck them out and throw them away, and boom, the garden starts to grow. The garden is your abundance, whatever it is. Prosperity, financial, health, whatever it may be. Guardian path. Now, guardian path I really, really like. I like all the paths. But the guardian path is sort of the Christ Phoenix path. It's the Redeemer archetype. It's about brotherhood and sisterhood and peace and being of service, but it's also about zero BS. It's like, I'm an individual. You are not stealing my life force, period. And it's not hostile. It's kind. It's kind about that. So it's like the narcissist is trying to get your stuff. It's like, oh, no, sorry. Keep it. You can't have it. I love you, but no. Yeah, exactly. No, that's, I'm being totally goofy right now because a true guardian path wouldn't mock anybody. And that kind of sounded like that. But it's recognizing that you're allowed to have compassion with those who, you very much disagree with, and they are very envious. A lot of us deal with the envy component. Envy is a very clever angle, but guardian path is about transcending that, realizing everybody's their own distinct essence, and realizing you as the individual is truly way more than you think is amazing. I mean, it blows your mind. All my clients who work with me for even X amount of time, like even a month, they come back and say, this is impossible. And my response to that gets better, because it does. It keeps getting better. And the idea of the Redeemer archetype and resurrection and life and the guardian path is that if you appreciate death and decay is just simply the absence of life force, it's pride consciousness. And you come into this Christ consciousness and come to courageous consciousness and ask the question or say the statement, what if I can, or I can? Different reality, entirely different reality. And it's about transcending narcissism. And so then the last path we'll talk about is the mystic path. Mystic path is what happens when masculine and feminine fully and totally embrace one. Guardian paths when they respect each other. Mystic paths when they're essentially unified. A lot of people also say I want to be a mystic path. It sounds so cool. I want to be a mystic. Yes, but it's also about forgiveness, right? And the idea of forgiveness is the forgive to release. It lets go of the entanglements. Because if you think about a lot of our challenges, where stupid men attack women or stupid women attack men, or stupid men attack men, stupid women attack women. And then they create all of our problems. And we're supposed to pick a side here. And it's like, dude, masculine and feminine are equals, absolutely, in every possible way. And the lack of that acceptance creates all of your problems. It's where all your harshness, your victimhood is hanging out. It's where the bully and the victim traps all linger. So forgiveness is about diplomacy. It's about alchemy. It's about transmutation. It's about converting darkness into light by practicing the essence of forgiveness. And forgiveness is an authorization of toxic actions. It's the idea that I'm not going to psychically linger in your delusion with you. That sounds a little bit harsh, but it's, I honor you. And yeah, I know I'm going to go for a walk. But those are the 7 paths in a very, very quick fashion.
So is everyone already on a path, or do we have multiple paths? Can you choose a path? How does that work?
So you're always working on all the paths to some extent, but one path is you. It's almost as if you're constructed from it, like from the source of creation. And the thing about that I've heard a lot of people what if I don't like my purpose? I'm like, your purpose is your greatest joy. Always. Your highest and most absolute joy. Where your greatest joy and peace is, that's your purpose. And how do I make it work in this world? That's what we're here doing. Is we're learning. You're listening to this message. You're already working in it. Here's an elder path. You're surrendering. You're letting it unfold. Awakener path. You're learning something new. Unifier path, you're loving yourself by listening to this instead of nonsense on the news. Purifier path, you're being disciplined and becoming curious about this joy thing. Manifestor path, you're letting a partial truth get bigger. You're looking for truth. Guardian path, you're owning your sovereignty and autonomy by being here. And then the mystic path, you're letting go of trying to control the show and you're letting it unfold and you're seeing how it plays out. And from there you make determinations. And so we usually have one path as our core path. And we have maybe another one that we're working on. We always do a little bit on all the paths. But if you recognize some of path development, right? So path development is about truth. They're about the spoken truth, about protecting, about, about really holding the line against anti-light and the light. This is the Archangel Michael component. But my other path's my own personal. I'm not going to talk about that. So there's always things we're working to improve, right? Like,
do you have a show?
Do I have a show? No, we're gonna. So I have a whole process to let people move through. It starts with the unseen ally, right? It's the first step, is the unseen ally. Well, we're gonna do something now too, where I'm gonna have a bi-weekly members only call called the Unseen Alliance. We're putting that all together right now, and I actually recorded the invitation before our show, actually, because Michael's been asking me to do this for a while. Usually when Archangel Michael makes a request, it's more of it's like, for those who work with Archangel Michael, he's the most loving, benevolent guide ever. But if he puts truth on the table, it's straight up truth. You can dance around it or wait. But if you do, you really wish you hadn't. Not that you're being punished or anything. It's because it's like, damn, I missed out on that. I should have gone, forget my language. That's taking form. That's been in the works for a while, but it seems it's taking form right now.
And I asked because notice I didn't say a single word as you're talking through all these paths, because I could just sit and listen to you. You are the type of guy that I would love to be. Right?
No, that's not true at all. I'm going to cancel that. No, we're going to stop that. You're the type of guy you'd love to be. And I understand what you're saying, and thank you, but let me also talk. Because I've been talking a lot, so let me continue.
Wait, let you talk.
No. So here's what you have done instinctually. You've seen a deficit in this reality of truth. You have used your skills to create an opening that most likely is not paying you one end of what TV does, right? So if you go into superficiality, you can make billions of times more. But your true selves have decided to give this time and this energy to create a space for those who are sent to you, to put various types of truth on the table for those who are sent to hear these messages.
Yes.
And so that, frankly, like, my function is to help souls like you, like, as you're helping the helpers. And this is one of my friend on the mountain we always talked about. So it's the idea of assembling the forces. Now it sounds a little intense, maybe it doesn't, but the Unseen Alliance is those of us who are angels and are these warriors. We're the ones who have all the power. The other side has lies, like, I have machine guns and bullets. We have lightning bolts and hurricanes. I mean, it's our alliance is much more powerful than can be even quantified. This is why fear is pushed on all the different shows, and why there's so much dark stuff put out there and like all that nonsense, is because you as the individual, by being who you are, made this eventuality possible. And so you want to be who you are because you are being who you are. That's the whole premise of it. But I hear what you're saying. I thank you.
You just, the way that you think, right? That's what we all are trying to get to the point where I don't know you other than the research I've done and this conversation that we're having, but your mindset, the way that you express yourself, the thought processes, the picking of talking about the eagle versus the calamity that's happening, right? All those things, that is what one strives for. You are not up on pop culture. You are in a frozen tundra right now, in the middle of nowhere, in a vehicle talking to us right now, right? You are living life, and you are living life from your truth. And that is unbelievably commendable, because most people would be too afraid to do that. When we talked earlier about you saying that we are all growing and we're stretching spiritually because we are uncomfortable, we spend a vast majority of our times trying to keep ourselves comfortable. And you're out there purposely making yourself uncomfortable for the greater good. And that is amazing. And for that, I say, damn, you are freaking cool, dude.
So are you guys. You guys are exhausted, and here you are holding a call. That's the nature of it too. So I always tease my clients, like, you have to see your victories. You have to acknowledge them. Don't ever bypass a victory. Don't ever climb a mountain and overlook it and say, oh yeah, of course I did that. This is not no of course show. You could have been tired. You could have done other things. I offered you guys an out and you didn't do it. So that's what I'm asking you to look at. That's your true self. That's your unseen ally. This is what it is to embody it. And the idea of getting to where somebody else is, you don't want to go where I am. That's freaking cold here right now. But it's pretty though. But at the same time, right? everyone has their own journeys. And when we try to measure ourselves against so-and-so who's channeling such and such and whatever the case may be, listen for truth. Truth is its own frequency and nobody owns the truth. The truth belongs to the creator only. We're here to neutralize the partial truth traps or actual lies. And this is why I said at the beginning of the call, like, look at the themes of dialogue that have been happening here. There's certain patterns of consistency you've seen, right? Conveyed in different ways. Each of the souls is on a different path, a soul path, or somewhere on a similar soul path. But there's this one thread of truth that's continuously being sown because it's the way home. We're reminding each other that we know our way home. And you're holding space for that. So much respect to you as well.
All right. Well, I will accept it just because I don't want to argue anymore.
It wasn't an argument. We're agreeing. We're reminding each other.
Yeah. I'm just teasing. Yeah. Ryan, literally your wisdom has been palpable. Like, it's been an amazing to hold space to use your terminology with you here on this truth. I would love to formally invite you to come back on the show because I think there's a lot that is in you that I think would benefit from hearing. So if you'd be open for it, we'll get in touch because I think it's great. But if somebody wanted to get in touch, either to work with you or just to learn more about you, what's the best way for someone to do that?
So unseenally.com. And unseenally.com. It initiates a process. And the way I do it is I don't try to sell anybody on anything. I put truth on a table, and I don't work for free because you have to value this. A lot of people value a piece of pizza more than they enjoy a book, and it's like, which reality do you really want to be in? Not to say I don't enjoy pizza. I love it too. But if it goes between a life-changing book and a piece of pizza, I mean, come on, get to the book.
Don't ask me which one I choose. Okay.
It depends on the moment. Right now, it's it's like, it depends on the moment. But the thing about that is that the pizza the book will be there though. Right? If you're not ready for it today, we've all had this happen where something was given an opportunity or possibility. And we're like, oh, I'm not going to do it. We get distracted or whatever the case may be. When we come back, we're like, damn, I would have saved myself 3 years of frustration if I would have just listened to that one thing. And so, but it's there and nobody's judging you. Like, the higher levels of guidance, they just want to see us get it. And so even if you miss it on the first pass, because pizza's really good, where the metaphor is, like that thing, the book's still there, right? And maybe it'll show up in a different form, but your unseen ally is so masterfully skilled at working with you that this is why you guys are doing the show, despite, because you could have people in the industry be like, oh, these weirdos are talking about spiritual stuff and this, that, and the other. And you guys had to make these decisions to own this and to be that level of authenticity in a highly superficial environment to hold this kind of space. And you don't know what kind of ripples you've had. Somewhere along the lines, a mom listened to this and she had a different type of interaction with her child who went to school, had different type of, light is, we have all the strategy. The other side has all the tactics because they're all reactive. They need us reactive because that's where they live. Mm-hmm. We have all the strategy because we work with eternity. And that's why we're here to usher in sounds kind of intense, but usher in victory.
Unseenally.com. That is where you reach out to Ryan. And if, of course, you can always go to skepticmetaphysician.com. We're going to lay in the direct links in our show notes so you can feel free to access him that way. Oh my gosh, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on, sharing your wisdom with us. And we really would love to stay in touch. So hopefully that will be in the cards.
Absolutely.
And a huge thank you to you. We know that there are tons of options out there, and having you decide to come along on our journey of discovery with us is an absolute honor for us. if you know someone who would benefit from hearing the message we're sharing on the show, do them and us a favor and share the show with them. It will help get the word out about us, and it might just change someone's life for the better. Well, that's all for now, but we'll see you on the next episode of The Skeptic Metaphysician. Until then, take care.